Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. And I've been sick. I had a weird flu thing and I was really sick. I was off work and I was not well. I'm better now, which is great. While I was sick though, I needed like a comfort. Something light. A nice series to fall into. So I decided to reread Hilary Duff's book series. If you do not know that Hilary Duff, Lizzie McGuire, Cadet Kelly, the woman from How I Met Your Father, which is a very underrated series, I loved it, she wrote a book series. I feel it's my duty in life to remind people that there's a book series that exists. I don't know if she wants people to remember the books exist, but they do, and I'm going to tell the world. I have read the series before and I did vlog it. It was a couple of years ago and I feel I did not approach this series in the way that it should have been approached. I went to read it expecting a certain standard that I would expect from a book, whereas this is a celebrity book. And I feel like celebrity fiction has its own grading system. I think. I really enjoyed this book series on my second read through, and I thought that I would just share a very spoiler filled review of the series, because every time I mention this book series I have friends tell me, oh, I'm gonna read it, and I'm like, you're not gonna read this series. I know you and I love you and you're not gonna. So I'm just gonna tell everybody everything about it and then we can talk about it. If you've read the series, do let me know in the comments. I would love to know other people have read this. So there are 3 books. We have Elixir, which I've tabbed a little. We have Devoted. Yes, this is a non-matching set. I took what I could from eBay. It was hard to get these. And True, which is the final book. I just want to say, first of all, I had a great time reading these books. And I have never finished writing any book. I've started writing many books. Nothing has happened to them. I haven't stuck to them. So, like, I'm not slagging off this series. Hilary Duff has done way better than me in life. She's better than me, okay? And it's okay to know that. She has achieved much more than I probably ever will. I'm just going to open the curtain slightly a smidge to get more sun in. That's done precisely nothing. Book 1, Elixir. To give the series grace, just want to point out this book came out in 2010. It was a different time. The book starts in a Parisian nightclub. We meet Clea, aka Hilary Duff. Every way that she is described just sounds like Hilary Duff, and that's fine. You know, if I'm writing a book in my early 20s as well, I'll probably do a self-insert. Why not? She's not like other girls. She's hiding in the corner of a club. She's wishing she had her camera with her because she's a photojournalist. Every tab here is a reference to photography and her being a photographer. So there's a lot. I used all but one of a set of tabs for the photographic references. She is sitting in that club wishing she had her camera and thinking about her missing father. He had a mysterious disappearance. Nobody knows what happened to him. He went off to Brazil and was never seen again. He's been declared dead. We learn, again, photographer. She's not like other girls as well. And she really doesn't believe in soulmates. Oh, the foreshadowing. We meet her bestie since forever, Raina. Raina's described as basically just this sexy, gorgeous redhead. She's quick to fall in love. She is gorgeous. Like Floey Merida from Brave hair. And that's pretty much all we'll ever know about Raina in this book. They are partying in Paris. It sets the scene. It's quite a nice introduction. I'm a sucker for any sort of coming of age, anything set in Paris. So I was in. A side note here to reference Clea's loungewear of choice, because she's described as wearing long johns. And I know that long johns is just another way of saying like leggings. But when I think of a long john, maybe it's because I'm Scottish, I think of like old man underwear. And I don't think that she's, you know, this cute, rich 17-year-old woman in Paris wearing old man underwear. Maybe she is. I don't know. We then hop back to the US and we get to meet Ben. Ben is this nerdy, kind of older guy in that he is 20 to Raina and Clea's 17. He loves knitwear. He's really intelligent. He used to work for Clea's dad, and now he is basically her +1 for journalist endeavors because she is a minor. She can't travel without an adult. So that's his job. He is very possessive of Clea, like in a way that I think we're meant to be like, oh, he's in love with her, like it's kind of creepy. And also a 3-year age gap is not much when you're like 25, but when you're 17, a 3-year age gap is pretty big. Clea, however, only sees him as a friend. I maintain that even though it's not referenced in the series, Ben would describe himself as a nice guy. No nice guy describes themselves as a nice guy. Clea decides that she does not believe her dad is dead. She wants to look into his disappearance. She thinks he's alive somewhere. So off she and Ben go to Brazil on a photojournalism endeavor because it just so happened to come in, and they're like, wow, this is great. We can go to Brazil for work. And also I can look into my dad's disappearance in the rainforest. There, oh, who does she meet? Sage. Sage is described as basically being like hot, chiseled, like ripped. He has brown eyes. I believe he has hair. That we don't really, well, he has hair, but I know nothing about it. So of course, Clea and Sage fall in love. They declare that they love each other after 4 chapters, during the first time that they have ever been together after their first ever smooch. It's love. We learn that Clea and Sage have been soulmates since the 16th century, because Sage is the name of somebody in the 16th century. I don't know, maybe it is. Sage has been cursed with eternal life from a serum that Clea's dad was investigating, hence he was in Brazil. Clea has been reborn over the centuries, and each time united with Sage. They fall in love. It's beautiful. But every single time she meets a tragic end. And who brings about that tragic end each and every time? It's nice guy Ben. Every time. Because Ben is also a soul being reborn in some sort of centuries old love triangle where 2 of them are really like, we're not in love with you, Ben. But Ben's like, no, please let me be involved. There are also 2 rival cults that we get to know about. They will be involved more in books 2 and 3. Book 1, we're just kind of setting the scene in Fair Verona. This book left me with many, many questions. Why is Clea still friends with Ben? I don't know about anyone else, but if I learned that I was like soulmates with somebody and every single reincarnation of my soul resulted in me facing a very grisly death because of Ben, I'd be like, Ben, I don't think we should be friends anymore. I don't know. I'm not that. Maybe I'm not. I don't know if I'm that forgiving. I also wondered if Raina is ever going to have a purpose in this story, or if she exists purely, I don't know. Like, so far we don't really have a purpose for Raina. Her time will come. And will we ever find out what happened to Clea's dad? Because that was her reason for going to Brazil. And then she ends up coming back with this hot, like, smouldering man, and he has a black Amex card because he lives in a forest and has a credit card. That's where we end book 1. It is glorious. In book 2, buckle in, because we are introduced to 7 new characters. 7. We don't need 7 new characters. It very much could have been done with far fewer. We have Nico. He is a handsome, blonde, blue-eyed, farm-raised stable boy. Raina's love interest. Finally, a story for Raina. Suzanne. She is Clea's mother's like right-hand assistant. She commits the crime, the absolute sin in this book of being attractive, of being efficient at her job, and of being romantically interested in Ben, who is single, a free agent. Clea all loved up with Sage. But Ben can't find some romance in Suzanne? Oh, Suzanne, what a cow, apparently. We meet Sloane, who is the head of the Cursed Vengeance cult. I will talk about them later. They're my favourite of the cult. They basically want to destroy the elixir, but they are all favourite. We also have a family of 4 who are basically spirits. They took the elixir of life 2,500 years ago, and while their souls are living on, their bodies couldn't keep up. So they've lost their corporeal forms. They're working with the other cult, which is a society who want to protect the serum, and their members want to take it for bad purposes, because they seem to think that being able to live forever and heal wounds means that you can commit crime, and it doesn't. And in this book, the format took a bit of a turn in that the daughter of the spirits, of the spirity gang, she got a perspective, which I could have honestly lived without. I didn't like any of her chapters, and this book was a little bit longer, so I feel if I'd cut out her chapters, the book would have been a lot more... the pacing wouldn't have lagged a bit. I don't feel her perspective added anything to the book. I did forget to say that book 1 ends on the beach with drama and chaos, and Sage has been kidnapped. I forgot to mention that. So in this book, of course, we're trying to find Sage. Where is he? Well, we get to see that he's in this cute little B&B that sounds adorable. It's frilly, but he's being tortured, so he can't really enjoy the adorable B&B. Clea and Ben are barely talking for the first half of the book, so it kind of dragged pacing-wise. Clea is, I would say that she is okay to be annoyed at Ben. She is annoyed, justifiably, that he has destroyed her romance multiple times in the past, but like, she's not blaming him for things he's done in a previous life. She's blaming him for ruining things now, because he of course ruined everything, resulting in Sage getting kidnapped, because Sage kind of gave himself to the cult to save Ben from being hurt. But you know, Ben, classic, getting in the way. And then Ben is annoyed that she is annoyed. And I feel, Ben, first of all, you are 20. You are older than her. You are meant to be really, really smart. You should be more mature about this and kind of realise, yeah, I messed up. Don't worry, he'll mess up again. So the first half of this book was pretty dull, I thought. But in the second half, off they pop to Cincinnati, because they have learned that there is a key to getting Sage back in Cincinnati, where I also learned has a pork festival and is also known as Porkopolis. Fascinating. I'm learning things in this book series. Here our duo go to Walmart and stock up on weapons and like sweats. And they go into a long forgotten subway system, which is like underground. I don't know if this is based on something that's real or not. And there they meet Sloane with her gang, and we get to meet the Curse Vengeance cult, who are living underground in this old subway line in Cincinnati, Porkopolis, if you will. And what does this cult do all day? Well, they do CrossFit. They're doing CrossFit. They're climbing up walls. They're sleeping in bunk beds. They all have greasy hair. We will never learn why they all have greasy hair. They are all relatives. They're all descendants from the same men who were involved in Sage having the elixir in the first place. And nobody in this bloodline, or any of these bloodlines, lives past the age of 30. So they have very short lives. There's not time for washing their hair. Their lives are short. And not only do they live short lives, they have very painful endings. So they are wanting to find Sage and destroy the elixir. So they basically want to destroy Sage so that their entire bloodline can have the curse erased, because they never did anything. It's people 500 years ago that did stuff, and they are paying the price. So you can kind of see where they're coming from. Apart from the whole destroying Sage, that's kind of, yeah, it's not cool. Spoiler. I mean, I'm giving spoilers all throughout, but additional spoiler. Nico is part of this cult, except he seems to have washed hair. While Clea and Ben are away climbing through tunnels and stuff, whatever, Nico and Raina are having a little bit of a romance, and it is adorable and cute. And we don't get to see much of Raina and Nico, and I would love to have seen more of them because they're so cute. The society they've got Sage, they are gearing up to sacrifice him in a very dramatic ceremony. And you really realise that if we're picking which of these two cults is the baddies, if you will, the society are the baddies, because they want to harm, both cults want to harm Sage, but one of them wants to harm Sage to release hundreds of people from a painful short existence, and the others want to destroy Sage to get the elixir, to take the elixir, because they think they can then do crime. I don't think they understand that eternal life doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you can't go to prison and spend your eternal life in prison and have some very interesting questions to answer when, you know, you haven't aged during your 30-year sentence. I haven't thought it through. They just seem to think it's going to make them untouchable, and the things they want to use their power for are awful. You're not rooting for them, even though they have a delightful B&B. I think they have forgotten that in order for Sage to be destroyed, he has to stab himself with a dagger. It has to be him. It has to be his choice using free will. I didn't mention this in book 1. I glossed over it because so quickly it happened. The gang went off to Japan, where they went to a shopping centre, and there was a hole in the wall. They went in the hole in the wall. There was a mummified corpse. Her name was Magda, and she told them all of this. Gave them the dagger. I swore I took notes, but I keep remembering little bits that I'm like, that didn't feel relevant at the time. It's relevant now. So we've forgotten that Sage has to take his own life with the special dagger. Okay, we're forgetting parts of the plot here. We seem to have forgotten about Clea's missing dad as well. But anyway, let's not be worrying about plot holes here, or this video will be 4 hours long if I worry about them. Sage decides he's going to sever his soulmate tie to Clea because that'll free her from, like, her painful demise, which, you know, that's a noble thing to do, Sage. You didn't think to do that in the last 500 years of your life? But he is tricked into doing this by the meddling ghosties. There's an very eventful ending of this book that is very, very quick, where we have to say goodbye to Nico and Sage because they meet grisly ends. Nico, however, who is responsible for Nico's passing? Oh, it's Ben. Is it Ben? Yes, it's Ben. Ben ruins everything. Luckily for Clea, Sage's soul is free and just like wafting around and is like, cool, I'm going to go into this spare body. Woomph. And he goes into Nico's body. So now Raina's boyfriend is dead, but is also Sage. His eyes have changed colour, so you know it's a different guy. I was left with some expectations for book 3, things that I felt needed to be addressed. How will Raina react to losing the love of their life and seeing their basically reanimated corpse dating their best friend that also lives, they live together basically. So that's going to be tough for her, surely. These two cults will surely be cool with the events of this book where neither of them got what they wanted. Yeah? Like, they're not going to come back for anything, are they? Will Clea pick up her camera again? I don't know. She barely picked up her camera in book 2. She's a photojournalist. Pick up your camera, Clea. It's the main personality trait that you have. Again, why did everyone in Curse Vengeance have greasy hair other than Nico? I'm going to guess it's the short life. Like, I hate washing my hair. It takes forever. So I get it. Like, I get it. And are we ever going to look back into Clea's dad? Then we go to book 3. Which picks up immediately afterwards. Clea is delighted that her boyfriend is kind of alive, except he's in the body of her best friend's boyfriend. And she has the issue of she's going to have to break it to Raina. Ben wants to do it because it's his fault that Nico is gone, but Clea is like, no, Ben, I'm gonna do it. I'm the main character. I have to. Does she do this very clearly and concisely to explain what has happened and that his body's still, you know, going to be walking around? Of course she doesn't. No, she basically has Raina go cry and say, is he gone? And she goes, yes, that's it. So imagine Raina's reaction to seeing her bestie kissing her boyfriend that she thinks is dead. Doesn't go down well. There are some chapters from Raina's perspective, so it's nice to kind of have her actually be relevant to the plot a little. But they don't really add anything to the story, and honestly they're written in exactly the same tone as Clea's chapters, so it's hard to remember that it's a different perspective. Meanwhile, Nico's body is not too happy about having Sage's soul within it and is rejecting the soul. This leads to Sage having emotional outbursts and being extremely violent, which combined with the fact that he is now in Nico's body, but it's okay, Nico was also hot and like swole, so he's again in a strong body. The violent outbursts are treated really flippantly in this book, which I feel is such a missed opportunity to use this young adult series to share with a younger audience that it's not okay if your partner acts like this. Obviously, it's highly unlikely that your partner is struggling to accept a different soul in their body, but I don't know. But I feel that there was a lost opportunity to explain that, hey, you know, violence and aggression is not cool. You don't have to accept that. The gang are trying to find out how to have Sage's soul accepted by Nico's body. After some Googling, good old Google, they're off on an adventure again. They're going off to a desert spa that deals with soul transference. This spa isn't creepy at all. It's basically in the back of it's within like a mountain range. There's no handles on the door. Everyone wears baby blue, and it's got a jacuzzi. Clea decides that she's going to go on an undercover journalist mission, even though she does mention she's not a journalist and she's a photographer. But she's going to go undercover, which is interesting because I didn't mention Japan earlier and I realised I should have. When she was in Japan in book 1, she was getting like papped. People were taking photos of her, posting them online because her mother is a senator and her dad was like a world famous doctor. So she's basically a Kardashian. She's a huge celebrity, but she's going to go undercover because people in Japan recognized her, but people who live in the same country as her, where it's kind of relevant who the senators are, they won't recognize her. Make it make sense, Hilary Duff, but she won't. Imagine Clea and our surprise when in this soul transference spa, she is reunited with Magda, the mummified corpse from book number 1. She's put her soul in someone else's body and just taken over this body because why not? And she gives Clea some advice and tells her how to help Sage with the soul transference because this spa doesn't need it. You don't need this spa, there are other ways to do it. I am referring to this as Deus Ex Magda because this comes out of nowhere and is very useful information. The gang do a dramatic breakout of the soul spa for Clea where they're like, that's Clea Raymond. That's Senator Weston's daughter. And they're like, who? I lolled because she spent 2.5 books being like, I'm like just so famous. And I'm like, no, you're not. not in this spa in the desert. We then get a cool ceremony in a park with some gems and crystals. But guess what happens? Ben's leading the charge because we're trusting Ben now, even though he's ruined everything multiple times, including in this lifetime where his actions resulted in Sage being kidnapped, Nico being dead. We're now letting Ben take the lead in this ceremony. But guess what? Ben tries to ruin everything once again. And Raina kicks him in the jewels, and I chuckled. This is Raina's chance to shine. This is the entire point of having Raina in this story. This is all she does in the entire series, and I love it. Magically, Nico's body is happy to accept Sage's soul. All is well. The book ends with an epilogue. Clea and Sage are now happily living in a brownstone in New York. I don't know what a brownstone is, but it sounds quite cute. Like an old, I'm assuming it's one of those old like townhouse kind of buildings in Sex and the City. Raina has taken a gap year to basically deal with having lost the love of her life, and she has gone back to Paris where she's found love and wine. But Clea's like, oh, he's not really her true love because only Clea can have true love. Raina's just having romances, but it's not true love, not like her and Sage. Ben has been shunned. He's off teaching somewhere because he's super smart, but he keeps trying to get in touch. And Clea and Raina are like, no, you ruin everything, Ben. We're shunning you. None of the parents in this book seem to have noticed that the deceased stable boy is alive and well, but has a different eye colour, different mannerisms, using a different name, dating his girlfriend's bestie. Like, no, there was a funeral for this boy and nobody notices it's a different guy. No. Regarding Clea's dad, the catalyst for this entire series, we learn nothing about him. Clea mentions him being dead in book 3, but in books 1 and 2, we were still under the assumption that he'd been taken and we don't know what happened. Like, there was uncertainty, and we could have just had, like, one of the baddies could have been like, oh, wasn't that the guy that, like, Jeremy killed? No, none of that. Or like, haha, he met his final end. None of that. We learn nothing about Clea's dad. Nothing. So that's my summary of the happenings of these 3 books of this full series. Was this a good book series? No, of course it wasn't. But did I have a great time with it? Yes, I had the best time with this series. It was so much fun. It wasn't well written. It wasn't well thought out. It was full of plot holes. The dialogue felt clunky. It was not literary gold, but it was so satisfying. I feel like this is probably like a candy floss kind of series where it provides nothing of nutritional value, but it provides joy. And I was thoroughly entertained on my sick bed, and I realize now I was so wrong the first time I read this book series. I didn't appreciate it for what it was, and I think this is truly golden. I highly recommend this if you want to have a good time, you want to chuckle, you want to be like transported back to 2010. And this is my new like comfort series. Like when I'm not feeling well, I'm gonna read this. My favorite, if we're going in order as a favorite, Elixir book 1 is my favorite. Then I'm gonna go with book 2, True, being my second favorite, and then Devoted being my third favorite. I disliked immensely the ghosty soul characters. I didn't need them, didn't want them, didn't like them. If you've gotten this far, thank you so much for watching and letting me ramble and spoil this book series. I just have to get the words out. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.